First of all, like, with the odd pacing, um, the scene where, right after Tadashi's death, when Aunt Cass comes upstairs and she's bringing Hiro a plate of breakfast, she sets it down for him and she clears away what is presumably the previous night's dinner. And I loved that they didn't come out and say that's what it was. That they let you put together, crap, this kid's not eating. He's that depressed. And he hasn't left his room. He's cut off all contact with his friends. And then his aunt mentions, the school called today, even though classes started 3 weeks ago, there's still time to sign up. And she says all this with this kind of, like, sad smile on her face, like, yeah. And, like, this is not a sad smile kind of moment. This is, like, kid, you are the only living relative I have left in the world, and I am starting to get concerned, kind of, I'm going to drag you to a doctor if you don't start eating, moment. And I felt like it was the wrong tone. And then because Baymax inflates in that scene, and Hiro is kind of like, oh, hey, I didn't know you were still here. And he kind of says it with this tone of, like, that his brother just happened to leave him there, not that, oh my gosh, this is the last thing my brother ever made before he died, and now he's gone, and now this part of him that he's left behind is here with me in my room. There was way too much whimsy for that first meeting between Hiro and Baymax. And it made the angst later on in the film stand out even more. Just, when Hiro says, Tadashi's gone, and Baymax says, when is he returning? And Hiro says, he's dead, Baymax. And I feel like maybe this wasn't the best time for that. Maybe that could have been earlier in the film, because there were weird tonal shifts throughout the movie like that, and a lot of plot holes. The biggest one is huge spoiler. Please, if you're still hanging around, leave, because I'm gonna keep spoiling things. When we get the big reveal of the villain and who the villain was, it felt like such a cop out. And again, I know nothing about the original comics and what the relationship between any of the characters was, but first of all, Callahan, the professor, how would he know? Like, they don't come out and say it, but the implication is that Callahan set the fire that killed Tadashi and destroyed the expo. But how would he know that? First of all, how would he know that Hiro would have a creation that would help him get his revenge? Unless, maybe he stopped by to see what Hiro was working on, and maybe he did in that working montage, and we just didn't see it. And second of all, this was what really got to me. After the fire, Hiro says, this is the only microbot I have left. All the others were destroyed in the fire. So this is the kid who created the little robots, and he thinks they're all gone. When Callahan steals the microbots, Hiro says, how'd you put the fire? And Callahan says, I had your microbots. And there's a shot of him, like, encasing himself in, like, a bubble of microbots to shield himself from the explosion. First of all, he's not the one who created them, so how did he know it would keep them safe? Secondly, the kid who created them assumed that they would be destroyed by fire, so it was colossally bad writing there. And I've seen other people point it out, if Hiro was so motivated by revenge that he wanted to get Callahan right then and there. He had the mask, why didn't he just, get him with the microbots? And again, another plot hole. The one thing that really did stick out to me when I watched the movie was that Tadashi's death was so contrived. You hear that he died in the trailers. It's not a big surprise when it happens. I guess I always kind of assumed that it was going to be an accident or something, something tragic, but something a lot more normal. You know, being caught in a fire that somebody else possibly set, like, it just, first of all, it looked like most of the people had left the building by that point. Tadashi had no reason to assume that Callahan was still in there. Secondly, even if he was, the building was engulfed in flames at that point. Even, yes, he's probably right, the fire department or whoever would probably be too late, but there's really not much that he could have done even at that point. I love your bravery and your compassion, kid, but you still gotta be, you gotta be smart about this, because in the 3, he's got a little brother, and yeah, I know you're trying to teach him, to care about people, and it's great, but Hiro is on his way to charging into the building after Tadashi, and they very well both could have died in that fire. So, not only did Tadashi leave Hiro without a little brother, and then for no reason, we find later on Callahan's alive, but he almost led Hiro to die himself, and Big Hero 6 pulls the death is cheap trope 3 times over the course of the film, and that is one of my least favorite writing tropes of all time. It is such a bad writing choice. Look no further than Once Upon a Time, because that trope has been used over and over again, to the point where now when someone dies, I'm not sad, because they'll just probably find a way to bring him right back. So not once, not twice, but 3 times does Disney pull that trope in this movie, and only once did I buy it, and only once did I care. You want to know why the fandom is in such deep denial that Tadashi is dead? For one thing, nobody else died in this movie who supposedly died. For another thing, it doesn't feel inevitable. That's the thing. A story has to feel... you hear people say, oh, that didn't feel like the right ending for this story, or that didn't feel the right ending for this show. It's because there's this, like, intuition that you feel like, oh, this is the right course of action for these characters to take. Look at Madoka Magica. A lot of horrible stuff happened in that show, but nobody tries to deny it, because it fits with the story, the overall story that is being told. And Tadashi's death doesn't. It really doesn't. I saw someone point this out on Tumblr. I didn't, and I wish I could remember who it was, but I didn't. This didn't even occur to me. But Big Hero 6 suffers from the same problems with villains ... that it does with that Frozen had, and that is that you have one obviously evil villain who turns out to be a red herring, and one nice guy that no one ever would have suspected to be the villain who turns out to be the villain in the end. And that was one kind of thing. When everyone in the movie starts to suspect Cray, I kind of heaved this sigh of relief that, like, oh, we're not going to get this dramatic twist villain in this movie, and then we do. And I guess what at least in the case of Hans, his motivation kind of, it was kind of set up in the way that he treated Anna and the way he treated Arendelle. He was very smart about gaining the people's trust instead of, being like, obviously, ooh, I'm going to take over your kingdom one day. He was very smart about what he did. Callahan is given a very different motivation, but at the same time, I didn't buy that he could suddenly be so cold towards his students. Like, it'd be one thing if there was kind of this hint of recognition that, like, he hated doing this to his kids, but he was so motivated by revenge that he couldn't see clearly anymore. But no, there's like a 180 in personality, and the pacing is so off in this movie that I was genuinely confused about the order that some of the things happened in. Like, I honestly thought that the whole portal thing with Abigail, disappearing into the void, I honestly thought that happened after Callahan had already faked his death. and maybe that's just me. Maybe no one else got the order of when those events were supposed to happen wrong, but the presentation is awkward, and I guess it just kind of makes the whole when Callahan is like, Craig cuts corners, and it's presented very much as like, oh, the honest man just doing it for the science or for the art or for the love of it, versus the corporate executive who just in it for the money. And he's like, Craig cuts corners, and Craig kind of just rolls his eyes of like, wow, in hindsight, you're a douche for having that reaction and knowing that it's because someone died. I just feel like the presentation was wrong there, and the pacing's off. And I hate to be so negative about a movie that I really enjoyed. And that's the thing, like, I still, despite all of the problems that there were with it, I still really enjoyed it. Which it makes me sad that for as flawed as Frozen was, I couldn't even enjoy it for what it was, because I felt like I was beaten over the head with just how sexist and racist it was and how many story problems it fundamentally had. Big Hero 6 has some of the same problems, but the story is so entertaining, I'm for the most part able to ignore it all. And again, it's another movie that centers on a sibling relationship. And look at this, siblings who don't look like carbon copies of each other. Like, that still bothers me about Frozen. It's like, Anna and Elsa look exactly the same, and you can't tell me it's just because they're sisters, because that's crappy character design. Like Tadashi and Hiro don't look like clones. And I know Disney can do a sister relationship right because they did Lilo and Stitch, but it just kind of bothers me. Why with both movies being so flawed, does Big Hero 6 work and Frozen does not? I do think it's a step in the right direction that the cast is so diverse and so varied in appearance. Although again, I kind of feel like once again the boys are allowed to be much more diverse in design than the girls are. You look at Wasabi and Fred, and they're completely different. You look at Honey, Lemon, and Go-Go, and there are differences. But I guess it just, they still have kind of similar, like the round face and the heart-shaped face that we're used to seeing from women in animation and especially from Disney. That said, Honey Lemon is basically Rapunzel. She's, except smart, which makes her a more well-rounded character. And she never pulled the face, like that the DreamWorks Idaho face that they did in all the promotional materials, which was good. I liked her character a lot. I liked that she was allowed to be strong and feminine. That was the thing that, like, because I feel like we tell girls, being feminine is being weak, and Honey Lemon is a step in the right direction for a woman embracing her femininity and using it to fight. Or not even to fight necessarily, just as part of who she is and part of what makes her it makes her a strong character. Like I thought it was so weird that her superhero costume came with a purse. I was like, really, Disney? But actually seeing it in the film, she's a chemist, so she punches stuff into her little purse, and like her little chemistry balls pop out, and she throws and like makes smoke screen and ice and stuff like that, and that was cool. That was absolutely cool, and I love that they were able to find a use for something that is such a feminine symbol and not have it have such negative connotations. The big thing that disappointed me about Honey Lemon was, did you know that she's supposed to be Latina? Because I sure didn't. I thought, her pronouncing Hiro like Hito was just her trying to be more respectful to the correct Japanese pronunciation, and that made sense for the kind of warm, respectful, compassionate character that she is. But no, apparently her voice actress, who is Latina, said, "Oh, that's just a Hispanic pronunciation." Does Honey Lemon look Latina to you? I haven't seen a lot of the concept art, but I've heard people saying, "Oh, she was originally supposed to be dark-skinned and dark-haired, and they threw those designs out in favor of the lightest skin and the lightest hair that they could possibly do," and that really disappoints me, because they're obviously going for a racially diverse a cast as they possibly can. So if she's supposed to be Hispanic, make her look Hispanic, make her sound Hispanic, and I don't mean stereotypically so, but, make it obvious that's who she is, because I thought she was white. There were a lot of flaws. And I don't want to say, oh, does Disney just know how to write for boys better than they know how to write for girls? Comparing this directly to Frozen. And I don't want to say that's the case, because we've had plenty of good female characters in Disney history, and, even not that long ago, there was Tiana and Lilo and Nani, and, going back farther, the Captain Amelia and Mulan, and, there are plenty of strong female characters in Disney history. I'm almost wondering, is it just because Frozen was trying to break out of the mold that of what we expect from a Disney princess story, and it failed utterly, whereas Big Hero 6 kind of sticks more to certain superhero conventions, and it's just easier to do that with boys? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know why Big Hero 6 works in so many ways that Frozen didn't, even though it comes to some of the same writing problems. Or I don't know why it was so much easier for me to ignore some of the story issues with Big Hero 6 and just enjoy the movie when I couldn't do that with Frozen. I can't put my finger exactly on why that is. I guess if nothing else, I am so glad to see the work that they did on the characters with the design and the personalities, and I'm hoping, because it is still very much Disney style, in the way that, the faces are shaped and animated, but it's with a little more flavor in the characters' personalities and designs, and I'm hoping that moving forward, this is where Disney is going to go with their 3D animation. I would love to see more movies along this line. Going back to what I was saying earlier about the anime influence, there's a scene in particular where, it's right after Hero, command Baymax destroy, and he rips out Tadashi's chip and tosses it aside, and the rest of his team has to stop Baymax from going after Callahan. I feel like if this was a Western animated film, typically what would happen is it would be very loud and bombastic, and the music would be very tense and loud and, heavy on the bass and action going, and but the music was very very soft and really emphasized the tragedy of the moment, and it's very dark and angsty, and the sound effects cut out, and all you can see the team attacking Baymax, but you can't hear it at all. It's just it's just the violins, and that was gorgeous, very nicely done, and that is more along the kind of thing that you would see in anime. It wouldn't be, a moment like that wouldn't be very loud and over the top. It would be very quiet with little or no sound at all. I kind of liken it to the fight scene between Azula and Zuko in Avatar, which is not anime but very, very heavily anime inspired. Oh, one more nitpick I wanted to bring up, like world building. Again, one of the problems that Big Hero 6 shares with Frozen is there's no world building. Big Hero 6 takes place in San Francisco, which is this, 20 minutes into the future hybrid city of San Francisco and Tokyo, but is it, modern day San Francisco? Is it modern day Tokyo? Is it modern day a whole other kind of city? Is it even our world at all, considering this is based on comics? And I guess the first time I caught Fran Sokio in the movie, I kind of thought that would be explained eventually, and it never was. Same kind of thing with those blimps that hovered in the air. I guess, are they air purifiers? Are we supposed to assume that's what they were? That's what I would guess, if I had to take a guess. And I'm not saying, in a movie like this, you don't have time to go into all the nuts and bolts of a world, and I'm glad that they didn't try, because then you get a kind of like the last Airbender live action movie, which sucked in all the exposition that it did. But I guess, world building is not the most important part, but I would have kind of liked to know something, about the way the world works. We've got illegal bot fighting going on in streets, but at the same time, Baymax is normal enough that nobody questions his level of sentience and the way he can interact with others. And it would have been nice to know a little bit more about the way things worked in this future. And it's the same kind of problem that Frozen had, not explaining the way magic worked in Arendelle. And I don't mean, I want to know everything about it. I mean, I want to know why ice magic is such a taboo in this world. It's because there are others who use it and are dangerous, and if that's the case, why is it that some people are just born with it as opposed to being cursed, and what's the difference? Because Frozen drew that distinction, born with the powers or cursed. Born. And then we never hear anything about that ever again. One more positive thing I will say about Big Hero 6 was that the way the team had to experiment with their powers. Like, their skills didn't come naturally to them, and we do see them fail the first time they go after the bad guy and try to take them down, and they get into each other's way and they botch it up, and I like that a lot. It felt very nice and natural. But at the same time, it felt like the focus was off a little bit. Like, this felt, to use a comic book, this felt like an origin story, and now I want to read the next chapter, and I don't know if they did that deliberately to try and set up a sequel, but I don't know. If that's the case, I would have either liked serious focus on this as an origin story, or more like it didn't feel quite exactly like a completely cohesive film. And I hate to say that, but it's true. But like I said, I loved it. So many good things about it. The voice acting was great. Hero was great. I loved Baymax, especially everything about him. I love the character design. I loved the look of the movie. A great use of color and lighting, especially in the city and on the armor. A great job with character development. I would love to see a lot more of these characters. I feel like with The Incredibles, this is a kind of movie that could be made into so many sequels, and if that's the case, I would love to see Disney take advantage of that and maybe make a script that's even tighter. Oh, one more nitpick. I'm sorry, I keep saying this, but one more nitpick. Baymax is a healer. He was designed to be a nurse robot, and they do the gag where Hero shoves him into the armor, and other people have said this as well, but the brilliance of that gag is not, haha, Baymax is fat. The brilliance is Hero is literally forcing him into a role that he's not supposed to fit. It's like in Brave when, Merida gets laced up into that dress that restricts her movements. Not exactly like that, but you know what I'm saying. It's a role that he was not intended to play. And I kind of thought that there would be more of a repercussion for that. Baymax, he does pretty much everything that Hero asks him to do under the assumption that, Hero is struggling with his brother's death, and Baymax just wants to make him happy. So he'll learn how to fight, he'll learn how to fly, he'll do all this stuff, and but the only time we really see repercussions was, and it's a big moment after Hero's whole breakage, when Baymax actually locks his access point so that Hero can't get in and remove Tadashi's chip again. And it was such a poignant moment that I kind of wish Hero would have realized, I'm asking him to do something that he wasn't meant to do, and allowed him to be more of the healer that he is, because Baymax doesn't do a whole lot of healing over the course of the movie, and I just that's why I say I would love to see a sequel with stronger writing, because I'd love to see Hero kind of coming to terms with the fact that Baymax is a healer first, and Baymax learning to kind of balance the healer and now the fighter in him to become an even stronger creation. And I so much interesting about that. I guess to end on one more positive note, Baymax, like I said, is a fantastic character, and what I love about him is there's so much more than initially meets the eye. He has a deep understanding of human emotion, but at the same time, he's not like a Bender or even like an XR or Crow and Tom, who are very sarcastic in their understanding of human emotion. I love all those bots too, but he says things like, "I'm a robot, I cannot get offended," and he talks, being a healthcare companion, he talks very straightforwardly about things that would be embarrassing for normal people, and but at the same time, you get the idea that he's not just going through the motions, or he's not just there to diagnose. Like, he does understand on some deep level, because when Hero rips out his programming after Honey Lemon puts it back, he understands enough of what must have happened and why everybody looks so afraid of him to apologize for what just happened, and it bothers him enough that he disobeys Hero and locks his access port and brings him back from the edge. And to me, that's just fascinating, to have a character like that who sticks to his programming so much, and that makes him so compassionate. A lot of the times you see with AI, it's either something goes wrong in the wiring and they become, kill, destroy, just Autobots, or they follow their programming too well, which is what happened with Otto and Wally, and they don't take different factors into consideration and adjust their programming accordingly. And Baymax isn't like that, and it's because he was created to promote health and be empathetic and caring and compassionate above all. It's because he sticks to his programming so much that makes him function as well as and as humanely as he does, which I love. I absolutely love that. That seems like a good place to end this vlog, and of course it wasn't short. But yeah, it was a fantastic movie. I'd highly recommend it. If you're going to check it out, I don't know how much longer it's going to be in theaters. I'm very late in seeing this, but if you do get a chance to check it out before it's out, definitely go see it in 3D. It is absolutely worth it. Please let me know what you thought of this movie. If you agreed or disagreed with anything I said, please let me know why. And until next time, I'm eternally optimistic, and I'll catch you guys later. Take care.